Welcome to the Online Great Books podcast, brought to you by OnlineGreatBooks.com, where we talk about the good life, the great books, great conversation, and great ideas.
Hi, this is Brett. I am the producer of the Online Great Books podcast. And before we get started with today's show, I just want to talk to you for a minute or two about a format change with the show, starting with this very episode. First of all, I would like to say, and I'm pretty sure, I don't really know how this wouldn't be the case, pretty sure I speak for everybody involved with OGB. It is a joy and an honor to be associated with this thing. I do a lot of podcasting work, and I love being able to tell people, I'm very proud to tell people that I am the producer of this show. But it is also a lot of work, especially for Scott and Karl, who have these very extensive reading lists and pretty intensive reading schedules. And we know that many of you are actually trying to read along with the podcast. For those of you who've been listening to the show for a long time, you know that a lot of the early episodes came in closer to 1 hour. But frankly, it would be a crime to try and stuff some of these broad explorations and great conversations into that narrow window of time. So what we've decided to do, and I think this really lets Scott and Karl loose here, as far as the conversation they want to have is concerned, we have decided to devote 2 weeks to each reading, meaning that every reading will have a part 1 and a part 2. And even though this means that Scott and Karl might not get to the end of their infinity lists, it will give you, the people in the audience who like to read along, I think a much more manageable reading schedule and also an episode of OGB every week that fits into 1 hour. I know some people like to listen to podcasts at 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 speed. Most podcast players allow for this. So you could cram an hour and 45-minute podcast into 60 minutes. Now, maybe that's a personal choice. Maybe you like it, but I really don't like listening to my favorite podcast personalities sound like they're on a whole bunch of amphetamines. It just makes me sad. So, as the producer here, I want you to be able to listen to the great conversation at the only speed that it should be taking place, 1x, again, that's my opinion, while maintaining like consistent expectations and a fair amount of flexibility in your reading and podcast listening schedule. So we're going to be trying that out in the near future. Thank you for listening, and here is this week's episode.
I'm Scott Hambrick.
I'm Karl Shute.
And today we're going to speak about he's not the original ticket taker. That's Adam. No, wait a minute. That's Eve. But one of the old school ticket takers, Faust, Dr. Faust, as written by one Johann something Goethe.
Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
Yeah.
Jawohl. Ticket taker. What dost thou mean by ticket taker?
Well, some folks used to call it, making a deal with the devil. Making some sort of a moral or ethical compromise in order to achieve some sort of worldly good. Yes?
Yes. Okay.
Like give oral to the gross, obese movie producer so that you can be in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard of that. I think that happens.
Yeah. Or maybe you can have a book deal, but we're going to rake you through the coals, and you're going to be vilified, and you might get a definitely not meth habit and go into Russian rehab, and then crank out a second book to fulfill your deal, and then it's not real good, and the Online Great Books guys poop on it, and then your daughter dates Cobra Tate and leaves her husband with her infant child.
Cobra Tate. Never mind. I don't even want to know. There are ways to earthly success that you can take that actually work, but might be problematic. I know you hate that word. Might be a problem in the end.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. So this book is called Faust. I've wanted to read it for a long time. I hadn't really ever read it. I've had it I think I bought it when I was in Germany.
I'm glad to hear that you hadn't read it, because I thought you had done one of those things that you do to me again, where you
throw a 500-page book of poetry at you.
Right.
Yeah.
Already read it. It'll be cool.
I had not read it. It is supposedly the greatest work in German literature.
Woe is them, by the way, if that's the case.
It's pretty good. I thought it was pretty good.
Greatest?
Well, I don't know. What else in German literature is there?
I don't know. I'm no...
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't,
I don't know.
for English speakers, we don't read any of this stuff. You know, the Trials of Young Werther, we don't read. You know, we don't read Schiller. We might read Nietzsche.
I've got a little German, and I bought the side-by-side. It's translated by Walter Kaufmann. Anchor Books is the publisher. This is the one you told me to get.
Yep.
It's side-by-side. And like I said, I have a little German, and I was able to, see some of the clever turns of phrase there, and also see that Kaufmann did a darn good job.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, he's translated a bunch of stuff. He translated, I think, a bunch of Kierkegaard, a bunch of Nietzsche. My little pocket version of Nietzsche is him. It's an easy enough translation to read. I thought Goethe would be a good choice because of his connection with Romanticism.
Okay.
Which I'd almost wish we'd go back to it. So he wrote this novel about this guy, Werther, who was disappointed in love.
Werther.
Yeah. And should we do this all in a bad German accent?
Yeah.
And Werther's very sad, and he kills himself. The book was so influential that they were fishing bodies out of the rivers all over Europe with copies of that novel in their hand. And Goethe's like, no, I wrote what really happened. I didn't write so that it would happen, because he had a friend that did it.
Ah.
So Romanticism is an emphasis on feeling great things, on subjectivity for sure, but on like feeling. Well, I think Beethoven starts to get into Romanticism later in his music, where the goal is, like I say, to feel great things. And the reason why I thought I wouldn't hate it if we got a little bit of Romanticism back is there's a whole lot of dullness, it seems to me.
Dryness?
Yeah.
Miss Murdoch says?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
When's the last great love affair you heard about?
No, I'm doing it right now. What are you talking about?
Yeah, just so. But I don't see it too much. I don't see people, willing to go off and change their lives and chase after the girl and make a new life. It's like, let's fit it into the career. Let's fit it into the ordinary passage of life. And I think you could stand to, don't you want to feel things strongly?
No, man, I want to work on my career, bro.
Yeah. And at the end, when you've done your career and you've never actually kissed a girl, good for you, I guess. You've lived your whole life in office space.
Yeah, but I was successful. What are you talking about?
I'd rather you be a Faust than be, what should we name the office space person?
Steve.
Steve. I'd rather you be Faust than Steve, even though Faust is a scoundrel.
Right.
At least, Faust left the cubicle. By the way, what are we going to read next week?
I have a suggestion.
Oh, I already made a suggestion. Are you changing my suggestion?
We don't have to do mine, but I think we should read Murder on the Orient Express. Well, Agatha Christie.
Sure.
But we can do your space pirate one or whatever.
No, what I wanted to do was we've been doing some heavy stuff, so I thought we did a music and ideas episode on guilty pleasures that we ought to maybe do some guilty pleasures. And I suggested one, which is Monster Hunters International by Larry Correa.
Yeah, let's do it.
Which is a lot of fun. I think he wrote the novel while he was working as an accountant, as a cubicle person. And the opening scene, well, spoiler, but he tells you in the first sentence, the opening scene is the accountant kills his boss. But it all works out for the best.
Oh, well, it's a big career move. Monster Hunter International.
Yes,
Book
which
1.
he gives away for free, I believe.
Yeah, Kindle, available instantly, $0.
Because he knows you're going to like it, and you're going to get the next 12.
Hey, damn the pusher, man, First hit's free, bro. Yeah, I ordered it. I'm going to get a paper one because why not,
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of lighter stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Would you like to hear a review?
Would I?
Sure.
I don't know.
So we had the Hemingway hero give us this really nice review a couple weeks ago. He kind of deuced on the Music and Ideas show because I hate Bob Dylan. And he gave us a really nice review for the Online Great Books podcast. And I read those reviews on each of those shows. You guys may have remembered the one. He's the one that said that we were Midwestern farm familiar moderators, right? Well, I attacked Dylan, and he's a gamma, and he just can't take it. Like, I have to share his opinions, or his gracious opinion of me will instantly change. So he changed his review. Now it's 1 star. Hemingway Hero 68 says, uncomprehending barbell and farm familiar moderators imbued by self-importance, hatred, and a complicatedly juvenile ordinariness.
What? He changed it?
Oh, he's a gamma. He has to. I didn't. He
gave us such a nice review, and now it's down to 1 star?
Yeah. The hatred. I hate a lot of stuff, including this guy and Bob Dylan. Like, you're supposed to hate evil and stupidity and meanness, and I'm all in on that. So, screw this guy.
What did he say bad stuff about me?
Well, you're one of the farm familiar moderators, I think. I mean, there's only 2 guys on the show.
I thought that was a good thing.
I don't know. Self-importance, hatred. People talk about that a lot. Hatred. We need to stamp out hatred. I think we need more. Just like we need more ideology. Like, if you're right, you should hate those things that are evil and wrong, and you should double down on your ideology. And, there is a group of people that does do that. And then all of these sort of classical liberal folks are like, oh, no, you shouldn't. And we're just getting our asses kicked. Thanks for the review there, Hemingway Hero. Sorry about that. Whatever, man. A girl will like you one day, It'll be fine. Everything will work out.
All right. Well, it's a revelatory review.
Yeah, a girl will like you one day. You'll get that raise. It'll be fine.
Oh, gosh.
It'll be cool.
It's going to become a 0-star review. Can he do that?
Hey, go spend a bunch of time on this, Hemingway Hero. Spend a bunch of time on it.
Hemingway Hero, I found bits of Bob Dylan that I liked.
Yeah.
And it was all your fault. Too. And now you're going to pull a 1-star review on us after I thought, gosh, I kind of like this song.
Yeah, I've said publicly,
I
like Tangled Up in Blue. I like Lay Lady Lay. But, he's not the greatest poet of our time. So, 1 star.
Okay.
Hatred. We also had a guy say, let's see, he listened to the better part of 4 episodes. And the reason he gives it only 3 stars is we repeatedly downplay racism and slavery. In at least 3 of 4 episodes I've heard so far, they've gone on riffs downplaying how bad slavery and racism are, asserting that it was worse to be a white worker in the North than be a black slave in the South. Like, what fucking show is he even listening to? We've never said that.
I don't think we said that. I think
we probably did say that it wasn't wonderful to be a factory worker in the 1850s in the North. But I don't know. I mean, it's just completely making stuff up.
Yeah.
Now, I did say that people often blame terrible customer service on racism, but it's actually systemic shittiness. I have said that.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I would downplay Michelle Obama's claims of racism when she didn't get lemon in her ice water when she asked for it. But yeah, this thing where you like hurl like claims of hatred and racism at people, I'm the man of steel. That shit bounce off of me. I just don't care.
Do you have any good reviews this week?
Yeah, we get good reviews, but I don't post those on my website. I post screen caps of all the bad ones at scotthamburg.com, and then you can go there and find all of my bad reviews.
Okay.
Gammas. Can you imagine listening to a show that you paid nothing for and getting your tail twisted and having to type something up about it?
I have never done it.
Nah. I did not love this book, Carl.
I liked it a bit. Why did you not love it?
I don't typically like when people do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Way too many words, not saying enough. I just don't need the rhyming verse here. It's just tortured, and it's just not enough for all of the damn work it was for me and him. It's interesting to talk about to read about and to think about, some of these themes that are in the book. I need to now go read the Marlowe Faustus, Dr. Faustus, and do a little head-to-head on them. Yeah, it's just too damned hard to read for the payoff here, and I've read some hard stuff that's for the big payoff, and it just wasn't here. It is on, this book is on Adler's list of great books of the Western world. It's actually in the Online Great Books list that we would ultimately read. But
it's year 25, probably.
Right. But is it really? Is it really, though, Karl? Is it like up there?
Well, let's dig into it. I kind of like the poetry. I mean, the dedication just killed me.
Oh, the dedication. Patooey.
You didn't like it?
It's just too much. Like nothing interesting happens in the book except for a little body bar talk until the poodle shows up.
Oh, all right. I want to read you some of the beginning, some of this poetry. So this would be page 65, I think. You come back wavering shapes out of the past in which you first appeared to clouded eyes. Should I attempt this time to hold you fast? Does this old dream still thrill a heart so wise? You crowd, you press, have then your way at last. As from the mist around me you arise, my breast is stirred and feels with youthful pain the magic breath that hovers round your train. I want to skip down a little bit. Talking about regrets and remembrance. First, love and friendship also reappear. Grief is renewed. Laments retrace the maze of life's strange labyrinthian career, recalling dear ones who, by fortune's treason, robbed of fair hours passed before my season. I don't know, it hits me. He ends it, what I possess seems far away to me, and what is gone becomes reality. So the old man finishing the book and writing it and talking about all of the remembrance that he has, and that, I don't know, it's poetry. Maybe this is my Germanness, where we're all secretly sentimental.
Well, Karl's, it's no secret that you've been oppressed by memory of late.
Das ist recht. Yeah. The top of page 67, my grief resounds to strangers. All his friends are dead.
Sure.
I don't know. I thought it was a good bit of poetry.
It's happening.
We start with a prelude in the theater where the director and the clown and the poet talk, but then we get to the prologue in heaven. There's a prologue in heaven, which is a good trick. So
it's a good trick. It's funny.
How would you stage this?
Speaking of, you said stage. This thing is written almost like it's a play, but it's really not. Did he write this as a play?
I've heard it called a closet drama.
A closet drama?
Yeah, probably you weren't really supposed to stage it, although it has been staged.
Yeah. Interesting.
Faust was a real person, by the way.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
In like 1490 or something. He had a dog that was supposedly the devil. And if you took his class, you would actually meet Helen of Troy. I would have signed up.
Yeah, no kidding. Full of hatred.
Who, Faust?
No, this show.
Yeah, it's kind of cynical. The best parts are cynical. So, in the beginning, in the prologue in heaven, we have Mephistopheles show up. So you have Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, archangels, and then Mephistopheles shows up. And he makes this complaint about human nature. So this is page 85 in our edition. So God is apparently saying, hey, angels, how you doing? And since the devils were angels, I guess they get to show up too. I don't know. The theology is dubious.
Well, this is Job, right? Right here.
Yeah, I haven't got quite that far yet.
Oh, okay.
But it's going to remember the story of Job. So he says, talking about human nature, his life might be a bit more fun had you not given him that spark of heaven's sun. He calls it reason and employs it resolute to be more brutish than is any brute. So I have written in the margin, the devil is defending man.
Well, I saw the devil defending reason.
Did you?
Yeah,
How
because
so?
it's evil.
Say again?
Because it's evil. No, insofar as you're completely reasonable, there is a brutishness in that. There is an inhumanity. There is an emotionlessness. There is a Spock-like disregard for things that are not of the reason. Mephistopheles is saying, hey, you gave him reason, and then now, as a result, he's more brutish than is any brute, saying that reason makes one brutish.
How would that be so? How would it make you brutish?
Because there are considerations when dealing with matters human that aren't all logic and reason. We got these emotions and other considerations that don't strictly map onto logic. What did Asimov tell us? I mean, he was saying that the robots were logical but not reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's talking about a sort of logic and a sort of enlightenment, just age of reason attitude that can be a bit dehumanizing.
Kind of a bit of the reason that I think a dash of romanticism wouldn't be a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, reason causes one to you evaluate things as how they are, but it's very hard to figure out how they could be or how they should be. Right? Mm-hmm. Logic and reason, you take what is and then you make inferences from that. And that's a big problem.
Yeah, well, logic presupposes your starting points. So in Star Trek, Mr. Spock, who's always logical, that's garbage. He's not logical because he actually acts according to things that he thinks are good. And those come first before logic. You use logic maybe to figure out how to effectively get what you already think is good. But you have to think something is good first. And reason itself won't get it for you.
It's the is-ought problem.
Yeah. Yes. God talks to Mephistopheles. Do you only come to accuse? So this is the Job story. If you remember the Job story, it's in your Bible. The devil comes before God to accuse, and God brags and says, you know about Job, don't you? How good he is? And the devil says, well, it's only because you've given him everything. Just take away everything and see how good he is.
Right.
Well, Job has a rough time. All his kids get killed, and in the end, it's a happy ending.
He gets psoriasis.
Yeah, there's this court case in it. He accuses God, actually. Well, he doesn't curse God, but he says, what's going on? And at the end, God just says, I'm not going to tell you.
None, yeah.
Yeah. So here in Faust, we have, I was just opening up Job. In Faust, we have a reverse Job. So rather than taking everything away from Faust, Mephistopheles gives him everything he wants. And I guess the test is to see if he's going to choose the devil, if he can get everything he wants. Where Job refused to choose differently from God, even having everything taken away from him. Well, we'll see what happens to Faust. Now, what I thought was interesting, this line that Goethe has God say here. Let's see. So Mephistopheles says, about my bet, I have no hesitation, and when I win, concede your stake and let me triumph with a swelling breast. Dusty shall eat that with zest, as my relation does the famous snake. I thought that was funny. And the Lord says, appear quite free on that day too. I never hated those who were like you. Of all the spirits that negate, the knavish gesture gives me least to do, for man's activity can easily abate. So God is portrayed as not hating the devil. Interesting. Dubious theology. The devil sort of has a part. You'll hear this thinking all the time, that Mephistopheles himself is a hard word to say over and over again. The devil, this particular devil, he's funny. He's the funniest character in the book. He makes it interesting. And you said the book doesn't become interesting till he shows up.
Yeah.
I wonder what the thoughts are behind that. You'll often hear people say things like this. Well, you have to have evil or you wouldn't know what the good was.
You mean my thoughts or the author's thoughts?
Either. I'm interested in both.
Well, it's just a problem with the writing. Like, nothing happens in the book, but there's a professor talking to his valet or his manservant or whatever, and they walk around town a little bit, and he gripes about his books and talks a little bit about alchemy, and just nothing happens in the book.
But there is something happening. It's Faust being pissed off that he's so smart, and it's not good.
Well, Yeah, okay. There's a sentence. Now let's get the poodle in here. It's just...
Well, I think that takes more. That takes more. I mean, we have a business here. Well, you have the business, and I work for it. That we have people read books, and then we talk about them.
I get it.
And I thought it would be interesting to read a character who has read all the books and hates it, and figure out why he hates it.
Well, he wants it. Like, he wants this knowledge, but he has the knowledge that's in the books. And the truth of it is he actually wants some sort of an esoteric, forbidden knowledge. He's fooling around with some sort of witchcraft, alchemy kind of dark art stuff prior to Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that he hates the books. He wants something more. He wants everything. He wants everything. This isn't a criticism of the classical learning that he's gotten, I don't think. He just wants it all.
Yeah, so he says, this is page 93, I have alas studied philosophy, jurisprudence, and medicine too, and worst of all theology, with keen endeavor through and through, and here I am for all my lore, the wretched fool I was before. It rhymes in German too.
Yeah.
For 10 years almost, I confute, and up and down wherever it goes, I drag my students by the nose, and see that for all our science and art, we can know nothing. It burns my heart. Of course, I'm smarter than all the shysters, the doctors, teachers, scribes, and Christers. No scruple or doubt can make me ill. I'm not afraid of the devil or hell, but therefore I also lack all delight. Do not fancy that I know anything right. Do not fancy that I could teach or assert what would better mankind or might convert. So that's the first part of his complaint, is for all that he knows that he doesn't know much.
Yeah, so Socrates isn't like making a deal with the devil. Socrates is at peace with it. The only thing he knows is that he knows nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, but Socrates wasn't a teacher. So Faust is teaching class to people that think that if they go to class, they will know stuff. I think that bugs him.
So I want to hang on just a second, where he's got this little rhyme here where he says, I'm smarter than all the shysters, the doctors and teachers and scribes and Christers. I'm like, what? What? So I go look at the German, all die Laufen, Doktoren, Magister, I don't know, and Pfaffen. Well, I had to go look that up. I was like, what's the German Christer here? Well, Pfaffen, that's just a clergyman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he had to make it rhyme.
It's always interesting to me to see what they do there.
Yeah.
About the time of the Reformation, that was a pretty neutral term. A clergyman, Pfaffen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's derogatory now. So this would have been, I don't know, when was this written? 1720?
Finished in 1832.
1832. So yeah, it was probably derogatory by 1832. Yeah, I was just off 110 years.
But there's another problem. So he's super smart, except he's not smart at all, okay? So he knows all the stuff, but he knows that the stuff is generally worthless. There's a bit later in the book where he talks about how his dad was a doctor and there was a plague in town, and they didn't know what they were doing, but they gave medicine to the people. The people still died, but because they got medicine, they honored the doctor. Interesting.
Yeah, yes, and they honored the doctor, though, because he tried. Like, he put himself at in peril by going around these people with this plague, and also, I think that was equal in that. Yeah. In that indictment of his dad was that, oh, okay, but he was a good man because he put himself in danger.
Yeah, but they didn't actually do any good, and the people thought it was good just because, they were acting.
Right.
I want to continue a little bit on 95. I also have neither money nor treasures, nor worldly honors or earthly pleasures. No dog would want to live longer this way. Hence I have yielded to magic, to see whether the spirit's mouth and might would bring some mysteries to light. Okay, so no money and no real knowledge, and so he's turning to the dark arts, as he said, for enlightenment, to try to get some sort of dream of knowledge. So this is not nothing happening.
Well, we're going to lick this over here, this first part of the tragedy, night. And we're going to do 3 or 4 pages, 5 pages of this. And then there's like a bar scene, and then there's him and the guy walking around, and it ain't much, Carl. Him and Wagner walking around. Come on.
Have you ever listened to Wagner?
Yeah.
You ever watched an opera?
I try not to.
Okay. So we don't all have to like the same things. Okay, but if you go see Wagnerian opera, somebody quipped, it might have been Twain, that you're sitting there, you look at your watch after 15 minutes and 3 hours have gone by. Which could either be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
But I think it was meant as a bad thing in that nothing happens. So you go to see Tristan and Isolde in this middle act of that opera, they just stand on stage and they don't do anything and nothing really happens except beautiful music happens. Except everything is happening. And that's the difference for people who like this sort of thing, that there's all sorts of internal stuff that you're supposed to infer that's going on. And I don't know, it's kind of like a chick flick versus an action movie. Only if the chick flick, the rom-com was 8 hours long.
Oh my God.
I'm not winning you over.
You're not selling me on it.
Page 99. Am I a god? I think that's bin ich ein Gott? He wants to be godlike, and he's trying as hard as he can to do it. He calls a spirit. A spirit shows up. Okay? So he gets what he wants. He gets some sort of spirit, an angel, I guess, is going to reveal something to him. I think that the spirit is funny. Page 101, with all your might you drew me near, you've been sucking at my sphere. Page 103, it doesn't work out. So you've implored me to appear, make known my voice, reveal my face. Your soul's entreaty won my grace. Here I am. What abject fear grasps you, oh Superman? Well, there's an interesting word.
I know.
This is pre-Nietzsche.
Fast übermenschen dich.
Where's the soul's impassioned call? And Faust says, it's Faust. Your peer am I.
Yeah, so you skip the chunk where he actually says a little incantation and does a little hand waving over a book, and he sees some symbol in a book, and he practices some witchcraft and summons this spirit.
Yeah,
and it's called a spirit. It's not an angel. Like, it's not clear to me, and maybe it's because I was reading it as fast as I fucking could that that it wasn't clear to me if this was a good spirit or a bad spirit. I'm going to say, because it was a result of this incantation and this weird symbol, that it might not be a good one.
Might not. Yeah.
But it isn't clear yet. And Mephistopheles is not here.
So he claims, so Faust says, your peer am I. Being deines Gleichen, I want to look over at the German. I am of your kind. And the spirit brags and, says what he does. At the roaring loom of the ages I plod and fashion the life-giving garment of God. So he's got some kind of job. And then Faust says, well, I feel close to you. And the spirit says, peer, the spirit that you comprehend, not mine. And goes away.
Vanishes. Not yours. Yeah. Whose then? I imagine of the Godhead and not even yours.
Yeah, so he's got all this desire to ascend to the heights, and he can't do it. And then, what then? So, for me, I don't know. Haven't made any deals with the devil.
Wait a minute.
At least not explicitly.
Yeah, how do you know?
Well, I'll make accommodations. But I haven't signed on the dotted line. I haven't gone down to Georgia, or the devil hasn't come to me.
Right.
And said, you're a mighty fine fiddle player, but I'm a fiddle player too. How does the rest of that lyric go?
I bet a fiddle will go against your soul.
That's the country version of Faust.
Right.
And, country Faust wins.
Faust doesn't exactly lose.
No, he doesn't. That kind of bugged me a little bit, but we can talk about that in about an hour when we finish this. For me, okay, so the human being is a weird thing. We've talked about this before. Dogs are usually happy unless you beat them. They're usually happy. They don't have anything transcendental about them, as far as we can tell. They don't get bored. humans get bored. I think this is very revelatory. So Faust, you could even read that way. He's got all of this stuff, and it's just not enough for him. What boredom means, it means that good things become bad, even though they haven't changed. Which means that the things haven't changed. It means that the person who is bored has changed. That you've got some sort of longing, or in German philosophy, it's the Geist, the spirit, that thing that tends towards freedom, or is capable of freedom. Or, to put it in medieval terms, both the intellect and the will. I'll speak Aquinas for you, maybe that'll help. Both the intellect and the will have an object which is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
So the intellect seeks to know all. There's not a point where it stops and says, oh, that's it. It might not be able to, because we're human beings and we're limited and we don't have much time. And it's the same thing with the will. The will seeks the good, and there's no point where you say, good enough. And so if you have intellect and will that both point beyond the physical realm, that's a recipe for unhappiness. Or it could be. And Faust doesn't know how to deal with it, and he's trying to conjure up spirits to save it. I think he should have gone to the cathedral. Maybe he would have met Gretchen there. But he's going to do witchcraft to try to delve into that. You know what doom scrolling is?
Oh, yeah.
I heard that on Art of Manliness podcast, where you sit there with your phone and you're just scrolling through the internet forever. Let me look at one more TikTok video. I've never looked at TikTok, by the way, but their videos leak out to other outlets. But that curiosity, let me see the next thing. Curiosity, it used to be considered a vice because the things that you see are not enough, and it's related to gossip.
Oh, but gossip. That's interesting. I was thinking it was related to maybe covetousness.
Could be, but it's a covetousness of the eyes, of the mind. So I got to see more. And it would be opposed to genuine knowing, because you're not actually trying to learn anything when you're flipping through your phone.
Right.
You're not seeking truth, beauty, and goodness. You want to know who Kim Kardashian's new boyfriend is.
Gross.
Which does you no good. It's not even knowledge.
Oh, my gosh. He just snuck in. It's not even knowledge. Oh, my Lord. What is knowledge?
I don't know, but I don't think knowing who is currently roommates with Kim Kardashian counts as knowledge, because it's not eternal.
Not all facts map
It's
onto
pretty
knowledge.
far from eternal. Poor Kanye.
Some knowledge is factual, but not all factual isn't knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty low on the knowledge tree.
Carlingian epistemology.
And so Faust is frustrated that he can't get to the heights, to what he thinks are the heights. And so he's susceptible to the devil.
So I couldn't read hardly any of this without thinking of our Faustian technocratic overlords constantly. Were you fighting that off? Were you having a hard time staying in the story like I was because you couldn't stop thinking about Musk and Gates and their kin?
A little bit. It didn't consume me, but a little bit. There's an awful lot of people seeking power. He says somewhere, when he does his little analysis of the beginning of John's Gospel, page 153, it says, "In the beginning was the Word. Already I am stopped. It seems absurd. The Word does not deserve the highest prize. I must translate it otherwise." So the word is logos.
Right.
Logos is not enough for him. Logos would be order and reason in probably the proper way. I must translate it otherwise. If I am well inspired and not blind, it says, "In the beginning was the mind." Ponder that first line and wait and see, lest you should write too hastily. Is the mind the all-creating source? That's not good enough either. It ought to say, "In the beginning there was force." Kraft, die Kraft. Yet something warns me as I grasp the pen that my translation must be changed again. The Spirit helps me. Now it is exact. I write, "In the beginning was the act." And I'm hearing Schopenhauer there, and I'm hearing Nietzsche. You go away from logos, and you end up with will to power. The world is will and idea. Wasn't that Schopenhauer's book?
I believe so, yeah.
I haven't actually read too much Schopenhauer, except with you. Reason's not enough. Whatever logos is, you might have heard that phrase, like logos rising. It's noising around the internet amongst an attempt at a revival of, Christianity, frankly. But so they'll say logos rising. But if it's not logos, what is it? If it's not the genuine highest things, then what else are you going to do with your transcendent power, O human? Well, I don't know. It might corner the market on everything.
So, a friend of ours, Karl, emailed me, Tina, from Online Great Books. You remember Tina?
Yeah.
And she said, you might go check out this Samo. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Samo is his first name. Last name, Burja. He recommended these 8 books to read. 1, Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book. 2, Plato's Republic. 3, History of Peloponnesian War. 4, Aristotle's Politics. 5, On War. 6, he recommends his own book, Great Founder Theory. 7, The Evolution of Civilizations by Carol Quigley. Persecution, The Art of Writing, Leo Strauss. I'm like, interesting. That's the way we say it in Oklahoma. Other people say interesting. Then I go look into this guy a little bit more, and he's very interested. He's created this thing called the Immortality Project. And Tina said in her email to me that this guy did some Zoom thing or whatever. And he's 26, and he says, see you at my 400th birthday party at the end of the interview.
I bet we don't.
I hope we don't. Like, I don't want to do 400 years of this. As good as it all is, I don't want to do that. I want to beat this boss and go to level 2. 400 years.
400 years of the cubicle, I guess. I don't know. What would you do for 400 years?
I don't know. But, this guy, from what I understand, he's been involved in dozens of startup companies. I think he had a hand. I'm not sure. I didn't research him a lot, but he had a hand in the development of Ethereum. So this guy's made some money. He's 26, 27, whatever. He's made a few shekels, and he's looking for something else. He's got to get some more. He wants some more.
I've noticed this. So you know that I love Space Marines.
Yeah.
So I've read a few. Our friend Kirk is a fan of David Weber. Also Larry Correa, by the way. David Weber has these Honor Harrington books. It's like Horatio Hornblower in space. Mm-hmm. They're kind of fun. I've read maybe 14 of them.
Lots of spacemanship talk about.
Oh yeah, and they have gotten rid of old age. And so these characters, they get to 100 years old, 200 years old, 300 years old. Did the same thing. I was reading having in my car, a quite enjoyable The Warp Marine Corps by C.J. Carella, giving a plug. Lots of fun. Humans encounter aliens and find out that aliens mostly are interested in genocide, so the humans decide to do it themselves and turn out to be the bad guys. Well, I don't know. It's to be determined if they're the bad guys. But they're also living, long times, 300 years, and they don't get weird enough. If you actually could live 300 years, how weird would you get?
Like, anybody that's trained at a public gym knows that old guys get pretty weird, like when you go to the locker room.
Yeah. I think Larry Niven did it better. So in the Ringworld series, there's this character, Louis Wu, who's, one of the oldest people around, and he's bored out of his mind, which is why he goes on the crazy mission to find out what the Ringworld is, because it's just terrible. I don't know that unlimited temporal life is a good.
Yeah, you end up being 73 and working on perfect handmade dovetail joinery. Because what else are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, imagine if you were 73 and you had no kin. You had no family.
Oh, dude, travel. Travel. Don't you want to travel?
I don't want to travel now. I'm 49.
Well,
I want to go
that's awfully narrow-minded of you. See, that's that hatred I've been wanting to talk to you about. But that's
every place I go, there I am.
That's the Faustian bargain, right? Just more. But it's the Babylonian problem.
Yeah, he wants to be like the gods, and yet, Psalm 113, I am not like the gods. That was a painful thrust. I'm like the worm that burrows in the dust. And the next page, should I read in 1,000 books, maybe, that men have always suffered everywhere, though now and then some men lived happily? You read all the books, it's not going to change his fundamental problem. And so he's going to commit suicide. Would have been a short book. You would have been happy. Mm-hmm. He frames it in an interesting way on 117. The time has come to prove by deeds that mortals have as much dignity as any god. So he grabs this poison and he's gonna drink it.
He's gonna do a Mishima.
And then he hears the Christ is risen from the church, and he doesn't do it.
Yeah, and offer this last drink with all my soul unto the morning as a festive high salute.
Yeah, go out like a proper pagan.
Yeah.
Like Seneca or something. But he doesn't do it. It's not clear why he doesn't do it. Because he doesn't believe anything. And yet the prayers draw him back. And he doesn't die. But then he meets Mephistopheles.
Who is in the form of a poodle.
Yes. I think that's historical.
Of course. Yeah, apparently Mephistopheles in Goethe's world has to come in by invitation and must leave by the same route.
Yeah.
He can't come in by the door and then leave through the window, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he manages to get in because the little hex on the floor is slightly off. I'm trying to figure out where does he show up?
Where does he show up? He shows up after
159.
He shows up.
Well, the dog shows up.
He shows up after the scene where you have the Easter services. So Lent's over, and all the apprentices and others are drinking it up and carousing with the servant girl and all that. I enjoyed that part. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. I think all that poetry, all of the like drinking songs and stuff, I think that's pretty entertaining. The soldiers are talking about castles and maidens and how they both can be conquered. It's good poetry. But that requires you to, sit and read a lot of poetry, which people aren't too tolerant of these days.
Kaufmann does a really good job of maintaining the rhyme and verse into the English. He does a great job. I was looking for some of that bawdy talk from those young men. Where is it? It's pretty funny. Yeah, life is all splendor. Maidens and castles have to surrender. Fair is the dare, splendid the pay. And then the soldiers march on away. Yeah. Splendid the pay.
Yeah, probably a little foreshadowing there because of what's going to happen with Faust and Margaret.
Yeah.
Which just kills me. So Mephistopheles, Faust says, who are you? Part of the force that which would do evil evermore and yet creates the good. So there's some dubious theology. Of course, he is a liar. So this is the bottom of 159. Well, I don't know if it's dubious theology. What is the point of evil?
Oh, Lord.
In other words, that it be allowed. If there is a creator who's all-powerful and yet there is evil. Well, Socrates is in my mind saying, well, what do you mean by evil?
Well, without chasing that, yeah, I mean, this is a big theological problem, right? Like what in fact, what is it? Is it a privation of the good? Is it an active malevolent inversion of good? What the heck is it? And in this book, it's a real life active force that is on par with deity.
Yeah, well, except he loses in the end. But this notion that do evil evermore and yet creates the good. So in Genesis, when Joseph gets thrown into the pit by his brothers, there's a line in there about, although you did this to me, it worked for the good. Because he's able to rescue them when he's, a high official in Egypt. The idea being that if there is a God, evil may be there, but the point is that more good comes out because of it. Is that what Mephistopheles is getting at?
Probably not. I think it's probably baloney. But because I can't imagine that a real Mephistopheles would be okay with ultimately leading to good. That would confute everything.
Right, but he might say it. So, there you are. You have a no account buddy that shows up and says, "Hey, let's go out to the bar. Let's go out to the club." It's one of those places, a gentleman's place where gentlemen shouldn't go. And he tempts you, and he might say, "No, come on, let's just have a little fun. It'll all work out for the best."
Right? How else are the single moms going to pay for baby formula?
And furthermore, you wouldn't want to miss these experiences, right? If you can't miss the bad stuff, or your good won't be as good.
Yeah, if the salt loses its savor.
Yes, I think he's lying.
I do too.
He's telling a truth and making it a lie.
I really don't like that sort of popular notion that everything accrues to the good.
Well, it might, but that's not what you meant to do.
Well, like this whole thing where the 12-year-old succumbs to cystic fibrosis, and it's all for the good. Maybe so, but I'm not saying that, and that's not for me to figure out.
Yeah,
I don't like that crap.
So, physically, when the earthquake happens or people get cancer or something, it's good may come of it, but it's hard for you to see because you don't see the whole picture.
Yeah.
Moral evil, that we need to do wrong in order to do good, that's really tempting, but I think you have to remember, Mephistopheles is a liar. It sounds great, but it's not going to work out so great.
Is there a Mephistopheles, Carl?
By that name? I don't know.
Is there a Mephistophelesian force out there that's whispering seductive bullshit into your ear to get you to go to the strip club?
Oh, it sure feels like it.
Sure does too. This has been one of my huge problems. One of the huge problems that bothers me forever, is that evil does seem to be an active force that is personified. I think Thomas tells us it's the privation of the good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man, it seems like it's got an organizing principle behind it and actively burns calories.
It feels personal.
Yeah, I don't think that you mean by, it's my personal struggle, though it may be, but it's like, it's this evil has got me in its crosshairs, and I am a personal project.
Well, and it feels like the one holding the rifle is a person. I could have said demonic.
Oh.
It feels like there's active forces working against you, and maybe that's just feeling, but it sure feels like that.
Sure seems like it. Is that just because of the way our brains are wired up that anytime that we see, really anything happen, we assume that it's either like a random, like a lightning strike, or that there's agency behind it? Because, typically that's what you would see, right?
Well, humans we do tend to personify the things that happen to us.
Yeah.
I was going to have you read Notes from the Underground at some point.
Oh, yeah. I've read half of that twice.
A little Dostoevsky.
Can I just read the last half? I've read the first half twice.
Sure.
Another one I can't finish is Nostromo. Conrad.
I haven't read that one.
Oh, my Lord. It's a book about one foreign national being in another country, speaking another language, written in a second language by Joseph Conrad. Like, it's just... I know a lot of people I respect love that book, but man, holy crap, I can't do it. Heart of Darkness and Nostromo, neither one of them. Can't do Conrad yet. Maybe someday.
Yeah, I haven't dug in. I put him on my list. I think it's loaded on my Kobo book reader. Okay, let's consider. So I threw out that word demonic. Active evil, seeking ruin for the sake of ruin, if I had to define it. Okay, now look at your puppies. All of you dog people out there. Do you experience evidence of the demonic amongst the puppies? Dogs might fight. They do sometimes. Do they commit breedicide? Do they torture? And I don't mean torture to get information. I mean torture just because it's fun.
The cat does seem to toy with the mouse.
The cat might, in fact, be demonic.
You know what may, in fact, be demonic? That guy doing tranny story hour at the elementary school. I see those images. You see him like go around in memes, and it's just like the crazy makeup, and it just looks like Ursula from the Disney movie. You're like, what the fuck? What is going on? Like, what is this? This person's not like me. Seems like some sort of weird sort of possession. Like, what would drive someone to dress up like that and then go read? What? What's going? What?
It's an odd place to do it. It seems like rebellion. Okay? Which is what I mean, which is another way you could map the demonic, whether there's actual demons or not, But humans do rebellion. So if you read, as you will, if you're in our program at some point, you're going to read Augustine's Confessions in year 8, probably. I don't know. I'm just making that up. Nobody knows how long this program takes.
It ends at 1277.
But when you read the Confessions, Augustine is very sad, upset with himself. He's writing it later, and he's looking back at his young life. And there was this time when he stole pears. Busted into the neighbor's yard. He and his buddies, they grabbed all the pears, denuded the tree of pears, didn't eat them, threw them to the pigs, and had a great time. And he's looking back on that and saying, well, and you wonder, why is he talking about pears? That doesn't make any sense. It's not such a big deal. Maybe it's because of the fruit in the Garden of Eden that the pear tree is important to him, but it doesn't seem like such a big sin, except, it's like littering.
Littering and graffiti, death penalty.
You didn't have to do it. You got no gain from it. The only reason you did it was pure cussedness.
Yeah.
Or, dare I say, the demonic. Because it was forbidden, you did it. And we have this element in human behavior.
So was there an act of malevolent force causing him to waste the pears, or was it a privation of the good that caused him to do that?
It's hard for me to map spite into a privation of the good.
Mm-hmm.
Privation of the good is like blindness, or like I don't possess the virtue of temperance, and so I drink too much. Malevolence is a little bit different.
Yes, spite is a unusual use case.
All right, so Faust gets made this deal. Mephistopheles is going to show him all the wonders of the world and give him great powers if only he can have his soul.
That old trope.
Yeah, my soul, I wasn't using it anyway. Bottom 175. I think this is a good description of what Faust's problem is as he sees it. The God that dwells within my heart can stir my depths I cannot hide, rules all my powers with relentless art, but cannot move the world outside. And thus existence is for me a weight, death is desirable, and life I hate.
Yeah, but he gets called out on that because Mephistopheles says, yeah, and yet, when death approaches, the welcome is not great.
Yeah, you didn't drink the cup.
No.
Yeah.
It's all just goth talk.
Faust is goth.
Yeah. We shit bats. Who cares? By the way, he doesn't write out in this edition. It's written out sort of like a play. So it says Faust and then has lines from Faust. And it says Mephistopheles and then lines from it. But it doesn't actually say it. It says Mephisto. He shortened it in this edition. And there's I don't know, maybe it's not even there anymore, but there used to be a shoe store in Tulsa. And on KRMG AM radio, every morning they would run these commercials for John Daniels footwear, and they sold Alan Edmond shoes and Johnson & Murphy shoes and Mephisto shoes.
Huh.
And I looked them up, and sure enough, they're still out there. They make these like terribly ugly shoes that you might wear if you were 97,000 years old and had diabetes and bunions. But like, what? Why would you name your shoe company Mephisto? Why would you do that?
Why would you name your band Black Sabbath?
Well, because you wanted to convey some sort of forbiddenness about your music and some sort of darkness. Maybe. But what about your shoes? In 1965, Martin Micheli founded Mephisto with the sole intention and his deep-rooted ambition to create the world's best shoes. Deep-rooted ambition.
Martin, do you want do you want success in shoe manufacturing? Do you, Martin?
He's like, why, yes, I do.
You can have that success. You must name your shoes after me.
I don't know. What the hell?
I think that's exactly what happened.
Martin took the ticket.
I've never heard of Mephisto shoes, but then again, I don't wear fancy shoes.
Do you want shoe success, Karl?
No. No, I'm okay. Yeah, so Faust is I don't know, the Easter song got to him, but now he's mad at himself that he didn't do it. And so he's going to take the deal. He's going to take the deal, and I like that line on 181, the devil is an egoist. Mephisto's like, make the deal. Don't even worry about it. And he's like, I need the terms. And so he's going to get, pretty much anything he wants, and at the end, Mephistopheles gets his soul. He gets to be slave. So Mephistopheles is going to be his slave in the living world, and when they get to the second world, it will be the other way around.
Yeah, and Faust says, well, what do I care about that?
Yeah. 189 is a good... Gosh, I found a lot more good lines in here than you did. Do you not hear I have no thought of joy, the reeling whirl I seek, the most painful excess, enamored hate and quickening distress. Cured from the craving to know all, my mind shall not henceforth be closed to any pain. It was portioned out to all mankind. I shall enjoy deep in myself, contain within my spirit summit and abyss. He has no thought of joy. I think that's right there. Joy is connected to logos. It's connected to... Joy is, as Aquinas says, our friend Thomas, Brother Thomas says, joy is, I don't know if he calls it a feeling. It is the state when a good is achieved. So joy is connected to the good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to me like our technocratic overlords are a bunch of joyless scolds.
You almost said overlords.
Overloins. Joyless scolds. Like, is there anybody having less fun than Bill Gates? I'm sure there are, but no one that's ambulatory and healthy.
Well, if you're going to go that route, you probably need to find people that are joyful and see what they're like. Probably ought to try to meet some. And they're probably not the overlords.
Right.
My kids watch a TV show, Lego Ninja show, and the bad guy is Lord Garmadon, and he has a kid, Lloyd Garmadon.
Lloyd.
Yeah.
I like that.
So he gets to go do all sorts of fun stuff. He gets to go to the bar and see all of the people at the bar drink like devil wine and fight each other. I like the bit where Mephistopheles pretends to be a professor, because I've been one, but we can skip that. We need to get to Margaret. So while he's in the witch's house, because they go visit a witch, I can't remember why, and in the mirror, he sees...
Well, we just can't blast past this.
Okay, fine.
There are a lot of good lines that you're pointing out, and I didn't. Those weren't lost on me. But a lot of moving about happens, and none of it's clear. Very little of it's clear why it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, scene 3. I'm like, what? Well, what are we doing? What's going on? This could just be a locked room mystery, or not mystery, but it's a locked room drama, and it would have lost nothing. And so I had whiplash. Like, okay, we're here at the witch's place, and there are these monkeys stirring a pot. Like, what are we doing? Why are we here?
Well, you have to understand the artistic spirit, which is it doesn't have to make sense.
That's clearly.
It's not as ordered. We're not in the classical age anymore.
I know. That's a problem for me.
So classical age, you introduce the theme, then you introduce the theme in a different key, then you have a minor section in the middle, then you have a recapitulation. It has an order to it. And you get into deeper and deeper into the romantics, and it doesn't need to have a pattern.
Question. Contra. Yeah, I like this more orderly writing than this.
Some of the lines I skipped, I like on 203, the laws and statutes of a nation are an inherited disease from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And place to place they drag on by degrees. Wisdom becomes nonsense, kindness oppression. That's a kind of a meaty thought about laws and time and original kindnesses becoming oppression.
Yeah, what are
I guess that's a progressive thought.
Customs and courtesies and conventions seem oppressive because we don't know why. We greet people properly and say please and thank you. And
yeah, I always like what Chesterton said about that. You can't get rid of something until you understand it.
Yeah.
And so if you think you don't, so you have this thing that your people do all the time, and you think that's a stupid custom, let's trash it. You can't do it. You're not allowed to trash it until you understand it.
Yep.
I think that's good advice. I like the bit on 229 when Mephisto is in the bar getting everybody drunk and they're starting to be bad. He says, "Look there how well men are when they are free."
Mm-hmm. In 223, somebody makes a toast and they make a toast to freedom. And Mephistopheles says, "When freedom is the toast, my own voice I should add." Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that freedom comes license.
Well, what do you mean by freedom?
Ooh, we're actually going to leave it right there for today. Make sure you come back next Thursday to hear the answer to that question and much more in the concluding hour of this conversation. Thank you for listening to the Online Great Books podcast.